It's a slow start to this year's Black Friday, with retailers across the country gearing up for thousands of shoppers scrambling for specials. With the country's struggling economy, though, many South Africans say they will sit out this year's Black Friday as they are barely surviving. Experts have also been advising consumers not to spend money they do not have. For more on this, I'm joined now by consumer debt expert Moeshfika Botha. Ms. Botha, thank you very much for your time. Let's begin with those people that will say, yes, I don't have money, but you know what? I'm desperate for I'm desperate to try and relieve myself. Stress levels. Let me engage in what is called, commonly referred to as retail therapy. How do you dissuade people like that who are saying, I just need to feel happy? One more time.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I have to say that it has been a year, and I can understand from a human perspective why people think that, you know what, I deserve to spoil myself. I deserve just something nice, and let me get something on Black Friday. I must, however, caution that a Black Friday bargain is only a bargain when, firstly, it is actually a bargain and the price has not been inflated and then brought down to a ridiculous was now price. The only way that consumers can do that is to be checking it and tracking those prices. And secondly, and most importantly, no Black Friday saving is a saving if you are not using physical cash or cash linked to your debit card to pay for it. Because the moment you use anything, any product, be it a personal loan, be it a credit card, be it a retail card, be it anything that is interest bearing, there is no saving. So we have to really look at what are we buying and what price are we buying it at. You know, right now for me, I could do with Black Friday savings on potatoes and eggs and petrol and electricity. If anybody there wants to give me some Black Friday savings, great stuff.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the luxuries and not the necessities, we really have to be looking at, do we have the disposable income to be buying things that we did not need before they went on sale?
The cost of living crisis is a reminder to us that debt is increasingly becoming unmanageable. And so we have to be very careful when we get out there to spend. But let's talk about those who are saying that we're going to sit this one out because we already are in trouble as it is. How much help is there for those people? And I guess you will pick up where I'm taking this, because we're now talking about the debt restructuring programs that people get into once they start not being able to manage their debt.
Yes, South Africa has debt options available for those people who want to commit to get out of debt. Obviously, there are rules and regulations surrounding everything. Debt counseling, I know for one, is a NCR regulated debt option. Debt consolidation is an option, but people also have to take into account that when you're doing something like debt consolidation, you're saying, okay, I'm going to take out one loan to cover all the debt that I've got, and I'm only then going to pay this one amount. You have to look and say, okay, if I've only got 3 months left on an account before I finish it, do I now want to refinance that over 72 months? Is that not getting myself further into debt? So I need South African consumers to become a little bit more financial savvy and ask the questions. Ask, what is this debt going to cost me over 36 months, over 60 months, over 72 months? How am I going to be affected if I do go under debt review with a reputable debt counselor, or if I do take a consolidation loan? Or why Can I not just muster up the courage to go and speak to my creditors themselves? So there are options for South Africans, but more than anything, South Africans need to acknowledge the financial situation that we are in, and there's no shame. There's no shame in a bad financial situation. Most South Africans are struggling right now. If we look at what the interest rates, the rise of the interest rates, and subsequently the rise of debt repayments and the rise of the cost of living, what that has seen, the rise in the last 2 years, and then you look at that in comparison to the incomes. Incomes have in no way risen to the same state as what our expenditure has. So if you are having a tough financial situation right now and you are having to cut down, please do not feel any shame in that. Everyone is struggling right now.
You're so right. Just this morning, I was reading a story on the Mail and Guardian newspaper, and the screaming headline there is that 10 million South Africans are in debt, and out of those 10 million, we're told that this 10 million, in fact, it makes up 62%, just over 62% of the economically active. That, if that doesn't paint the story for you, I don't know what is. Let's then talk about the trends around this debt counseling, because oftentimes we read stories that people get themselves into these programs, but still they are unable to get out of that debt that they are, getting deeper and deeper into. Why is it that these sometimes do not help? Because it is one of those key instruments that we're told is able to help people who are over-indebted.
It is a key instrument to assist people who are over-indebted. But those who are over-indebted need to commit. They need to commit to becoming debt-free, because one of the most important things about debt counseling is that you may not incur any further debt once you are under debt review. And that makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense to say, I'm committed to working away this debt. I'm committed to having my interest rates lowered, to having my terms lengthened, to making the arrangement and to have a lower repayment, more affordable repayment. But I cannot then go and swipe my cards all the time. And very many South Africans panic. They get into a panic phase where they've got creditors calling them and they can't afford to pay their bills, and they say, yes, I'm going to sign up for debt review. Debt review works when everything is aligned, when you know exactly what you are going to be paying. You know exactly that you cannot stop paying this. You need to finish this. You cannot access further credit. But most importantly, consumers need to find the right debt counselor, the right registered debt counselor. Go onto the NCR website, find a registered debt counselor. Make sure that when you speak to the debt counselor, you find out what you want. Speak. We need to start speaking and communicating about our finances. And debt counseling may not work for everyone. It's not a magic wand. It cannot take all your woes away. But it can assist South Africans, and it has assisted many South Africans. But I think what South Africans consumers need to be doing is to take a step back. And before you even look at a debt counselor or financial advisor, amongst yourselves, as a family, even as an individual, sit down. Don't put it on an Excel spreadsheet. Write it down. Make a point. South Africans have to know who they owe, how much they owe, what the interest rates are, who do they pay off first, how long for them to get out of this, and then start adjusting their lifestyles to accommodate that.
Yeah.
Because very few people have additional savings to put into debt or anywhere else these days.
You have touched on a point that I suspect a number of people may already be struggling with. So particularly those that have gotten themselves into the debt restructuring program, but suddenly the person is unsure of whether or not this is a registered debt counselor. So you've mentioned the NCR website, National Consumer Regulator website. Is that the only avenue where you can find a legitimate and registered debt counselor? Because those are the other things that a person who already has so much to deal with, now you are trying to extricate yourself from this person who has led you to believe that they are helping you. Meanwhile, they're helping themselves.
Absolutely. And every industry comes with its bad apples. The National Credit Regulator is there to regulate the industry of debt counselors. I would, however, also make the point of going and looking at the reviews from this debt counselor. Google it. We sit with data and we go onto all the social media platforms. We go everywhere and we look at what little dance are we doing? What little this are we doing? Educate yourselves. Go, do the work, do the groundwork. Your finances are one of the most important factors in your life. Everybody says, oh, money isn't everything. Yes, but money does make for a better living if there is available, if things are running smoothly, if your debt is being seen to. So I do think that people have to make the effort to ensure that the debt counselor that they are speaking to is indeed a reputable one, does indeed know what they are doing. Ask the questions. Ask the questions. You are paying for the service of your debt counselor. And one of the services that you are paying for, I would say very often, is the relief of not having to deal with your creditors on your own.
Yeah.
When a creditor calls you and you're under debt review, you are able to say, you know what, I am no longer going to be speaking to you. Please speak to my debt counselor. Get in hold of your debt counselor. You can tell them that you've had this conversation with the creditor. But people seem to think that there's some magic wand that says, okay, I'm now under debt review, everything's taken care of. It isn't. We have to be active participants in our finances. And a debt counselor is a service provider, and a service provider needs to be held accountable for their level of service.
Yeah.
And if you are not getting what you want from your debt counselor, feel free to go to the National Credit Regulator and report to them that you are not getting the service that you need or want. In the same vein, please be available if your debt counselor needs to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
Please do not decide I'm going to go and spend on a Black Friday sale and not pay my debt, which is under debt review, which is already now at a lesser amount to accommodate me, and then not pay my debt review installment. Because then your debt review is going to be terminated, then that's going to add to bigger problems, and then you're going to say, well, my debt counselor didn't do his or her job.
Yeah.
So I think that it takes commitment on both sides, but please, consumers, if you're going under debt review, do the homework. Like you would do whether you're going to a doctor, to a specialist, to any service provider. Do the homework and find a good registered debt counselor who's not going to take you for a ride and who's not going to put you in a worse position than you were before you went under debt review.
Very briefly before I let you go, banks. Some people may possibly be worried that now they are going to start seeing foreclosures on their most important asset, and that is your house. Are banks still approachable to try and help out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If there is in any way a possibility for you, if you have the courage and you want to be able to go to your bank, make the time. Bearing in mind that I have to say, and I say this on air, is that sometimes trying to get hold of a bank is more difficult than giving birth. That call center that you've got to wait on, the ringtone from one autobot to another. I think South African banks can be doing a far better service to their consumers who actually want to speak to them about restructuring, want to speak to them about saying, you know what, I cannot perhaps for the next 3 months be paying the amount that I have been paying. Please may I make an arrangement. But South African consumers need to know that they have the option. They have the option of going to speak to their banks. But don't leave it too late. Don't put your head in the sand. Don't decide, I'm going to wish this away. Don't ignore the letters that are coming. Don't ignore the correspondence that is coming. And then, once we're at the stage of a summons taking place, now you want to say, I've got to go and speak to my bank, and now they won't listen to me. Take responsibility for your finances. Either employ the services of a debt counselor who will speak to your banks on your behalf, or muster up the courage to go and speak to your creditors, but take control of your finances. Start now. Things have been difficult over the last 2 years, and there's no guarantee that they're going to get a lot better going forward. But take responsibility of your finances. There's no guilt, no shame, none whatsoever attached to any bad financial situation. And please don't think you're alone in this. Please do not think that you have to keep up with the Joneses, because believe me, the Joneses are struggling too.
Sage advice there. Moeshfika Botha, thank you so much. It is sage advice. If the bank, you can't get a hold of them because the call center, it just takes too long for anyone to talk to you. Just walk in to the bank. That's it. All right.